Welcome back to Mr. Midnight. So, Alaska, right? Most people think it's just snow, bears, and maybe some fishing villages. But here's what nobody tells you. There are communities up there with less than 200 people, where the mail comes once a week by plane, and when winter hits, you're living in complete darkness for months. And that's when things start happening. Today I've got 8 stories that genuinely messed me up while researching. We're talking about a bus driver who realized the kids on her morning route weren't acting like kids anymore. A guy delivering fuel across frozen ocean who saw something standing on the ice that shouldn't have been alive. And trust me, by story number 5, you'll understand why these villages have people quietly leaving and never coming back. Look, I'm not going to spoil what's coming because honestly, you need to hear these exactly as they happened. No dramatic build-up, no BS, just what these people experienced and somehow survived to document. If you're new here, hit subscribe. We don't do clickbait, we do research, and these Alaskan stories, they hit different. All right, lights off, let's get into it. Starting with the school bus in Kobuk, Alaska. My name is Rebecca Torres, and I need to tell you what's happening in Shipment, Alaska. Not because I want to, not because anyone will believe me, but because someone needs to know before it spreads. I've been a USPS mail carrier for 7 years. Before that, I spent 6 years in the Marines, 2 tours, places I can't talk about, doing things I don't want to remember. I left the Corps because I was tired of violence, tired of watching people die. I wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere predictable, somewhere safe. Alaska seemed perfect. Remote villages, friendly people, just me, my truck, and the mail. I was wrong about the safe part. Shipment sits on a barrier island, 20 miles off the Alaska coast, 563 people. The island is literally disappearing. Erosion eats away 20 feet of coastline every year. Houses fall into the ocean. Eventually the whole village will be gone. Everyone knows it. No one can afford to leave. You can only reach Shipment by small plane. No roads, no boats in winter. Just a gravel airstrip and a community that's been there for 4,000 years, watching the ice melt and the ocean rise. I'd been delivering mail there for 3 years. I knew everyone. Birthday cards for kids, government checks for elders, care packages from relatives in Anchorage. I wasn't just a mail carrier. I was the connection to the outside world that made me the first person to notice when the outside world started noticing them. November 2023. Polar night was starting. Only 2 hours of weak daylight, then darkness for the rest. Temperature was 25 below zero. Cold enough that your breath freezes into ice crystals before it hits the ground. Cold enough that exposed skin turns black in 10 minutes. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays I always delivered the west side first, ending at Martha Kokiok's house. Martha was 68, lived alone since her husband died. Always had coffee ready. Always asked about my mom in Fairbanks, 3 packages for her. Amazon boxes. Probably yarn. Martha knitted hats for every kid in the village. I knocked. My knuckles barely made a sound through my gloves against the frozen door. Martha answered. Purple parka with wolf fur around the hood, same one she wore every winter. Her face was weathered and kind, creased with 70 years of smiling. Rebecca, come in, it's freezing. Can't, Martha. Got 16 more stops before dark. Coffee's fresh. Next time, promise. We chatted for maybe 2 minutes. She told me about her grandson getting accepted to UAF in Fairbanks. I told her my mum said hi, normal, warm, human. I handed over her packages. She smiled. I walked back to my truck. The cold hit me like a physical wall. My face went numb instantly. I was pulling my hood up when I saw her. Martha, walking toward me from the direction of the community center. Same purple parka, same fur hood, same shuffling walk. She had bad knees. My brain stuttered. I turned around. Martha was still in her doorway, watching me, steam rising from her coffee mug. I stood there, my heart suddenly hammering. My marine training kicked in, assessed the situation, identify the threat, respond appropriately. But there was no training for this. "Martha," my voice sounded strange in the frozen air. "Weren't you just at the community center?" Doorway. Martha shook her head slowly. "Been home all day, dear. Why?" The other Martha reached me. She was breathing hard, like she'd been walking fast. Her breath came out in quick white clouds. "Rebecca, did you bring my packages?" I looked between them, identical, down to the small coffee stain on the left sleeve of both parkas. They saw each other. Time seemed to stop. The only sound was the wind howling across the tundra and the distant crash of waves on ice. Then doorway Martha's face split. I don't mean she was cut. I mean her face opened down the middle like a seam coming apart. The skin peeled back in two flaps, slowly, like someone unzipping a jacket from the inside. Underneath wasn't blood or bone, it was black, writhing. Like someone had packed thousands of earthworms into the space where a skull should be. The mass moved with horrible coordination, tendrils sliding over each other, glistening with mucus in the weak sunlight. And teeth, hundreds of them, tiny, sharp, lining the inside of the skin like the skin itself had been turned into a mouth. The teeth were moving independently, opening and closing, snapping at nothing. The smell hit me, rotten seaweed mixed with ammonia, so strong it burned my nose even in the freezing air. It dropped to all fours. The movement was wrong. The body bent at angles. Human bodies don't bend. The arms and legs moved too fast, too coordinated, like a spider. Then it ran. I've seen Olympic sprinters. I've seen Marines in combat running for their lives. This was faster. It covered 50 yards in maybe 3 seconds, moving toward the tundra in a blur of purple parka and impossible motion. Real Martha collapsed. The scream that came out of her was primal, animal, pure terror. I ran to her. My training took over. Check for injuries, assess for shock, get her warm. She was hyperventilating, her eyes wild. "Not me," she kept saying. "Not me, not me, not me." I got her inside, called the clinic. While we waited, I went back to her porch. There was something there. At first I thought it was a deflated balloon, but when I got close, it was skin. A face. Martha's face. Perfectly intact like a mask. Still warm, flexible. The eyes were open, not real eyes, just holes. The mouth was slightly open, showing the tiny teeth inside. I pulled an evidence bag from my truck, old habit from the Corps, and carefully picked it up. It was heavier than it should be, damp. The smell made my eyes water. That was day 1. The next week, 7 more people encountered their doubles. Tom Azena was on his roof, fixing his satellite dish, when his wife saw Tom at the store buying cigarettes. She waved, he waved back. Then she got a call from actual Tom asking her to hold the ladder. Anna Weyuana's daughter watched her mum leave the house, while actual Anna was at the clinic getting stitches from a fishing accident. Both Annas were visible at the same time, 300 yards apart. 3 kids at school saw their friend Jacob, but when they called his name, Jacob just stared at them. Didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared for 20 seconds, then walked away. The real Jacob was home, sick with flu. I started documenting everything. My marine training included observation and intelligence gathering. I filled 3 notebooks in 5 days. The doubles never lasted long, 2 minutes, maybe 10. Then they'd disappear when confronted or when the real person showed up. But I needed to understand them. So I started watching. I followed one, Tom's double, from 100 yards back. Standard surveillance distance. It walked through the village like it belonged there. waved at people. People waved back. But I noticed things. It didn't blink. At all. I timed it. 4 minutes, 23 seconds of walking, 0 blinks. Its breathing was wrong, too regular, perfectly timed. 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. Like a metronome, no variation, no catching breath, no adjusting to movement or cold. When I got closer, 50 yards, I could see its skin was too smooth. No pores, no texture, like plastic surgery, gone too perfect. Someone called out to it. "Tom, need help with the generator?" It turned, smiled. "Sure thing." The voice was perfect. Exactly Tom's voice, but the mouth movements were slightly off. Maybe half a second delayed. Like a badly dubbed movie, and that smell, faint but distinct. Seaweed, ammonia, the same smell from Martha's skin mask. I followed it to the beach. It walked straight to the water's edge. Didn't hesitate. Walked into the ocean. The water here is 32 degrees, maybe colder. You die in minutes. Tom walked until the water was over his head, kept walking. The purple shape descended into the dark water, getting smaller until it vanished. I waited on that beach for 40 minutes. My face went numb. My fingers started to hurt inside my gloves. But I waited. It never came up. Never needed to breathe. Week 2, they got better. The early doubles were obvious once you knew what to look for. But the new ones? They were learning. They blinked now, not perfectly, still too regular, but they were trying. Their breathing had more variation. They remembered to shiver in the cold. Some lasted for hours before being exposed. That's when Kelly came to me. She was 22, dating Mark Wilson since high school. They were talking about getting married. Everyone said they were perfect together. She showed up at my truck crying so hard she could barely breathe. "He's wrong," she said. "Mark is wrong." "What do you mean?" "He came home yesterday afternoon, seemed fine. But Rebecca, I know him. I've known him since we were 14. And that's not him. Kelly, I need specifics. What's different?" She wiped her eyes. "He forgot our anniversary. We've been celebrating November 16th for 8 years. He didn't remember. I mentioned it, and he looked confused. Then he acted like he remembered, but I could tell he was lying. Maybe he just forgot. His hands are ice cold, like actually cold, not just regular cold hands. Ice. And he won't shower. Says he's not dirty. Rebecca, Mark showers twice a day. He's obsessive about it." She grabbed my arm, her fingers dug in hard. "He watches me sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. and he was standing over me, just staring, not blinking, just staring. I asked what was wrong and he said nothing and went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep after that. I watched him. Rebecca, he didn't move for 4 hours, didn't shift position, didn't scratch or roll over, just laid there perfectly still." My skin crawled. "Where is he now?" "Home. He's making breakfast, but he's been cooking for 30 minutes, and nothing's on the stove. I'll check on him." Mark and Kelly lived in a small prefab house near the airstrip. I could smell something off before I even knocked. That seaweed smell, faint under the scent of old coffee and heating oil. Mark answered. He looked completely normal. Flannel shirt, jeans, smile. "Hey, Rebecca, what's up?" "Just checking in. Kelly said you weren't feeling well." "I feel fine." His smile didn't change, didn't waver. I've interrogated enemy combatants. I know how to read people. Mark was giving me nothing. No micro-expressions, no tells. "Mind if I come in?" "Sure." The house was warm, too warm. Mark was sweating slightly, but his hands, when he shook mine, were cold. Ice cold. We sat at the kitchen table. There was a mug of coffee in front of him, steam rising. "How long you two been together now?" I asked. 8 years this month." "That's great. What's Kelly's favorite color?" He didn't hesitate. "Blue." From the bedroom, Kelly's voice. It's green, Mark. His expression didn't change. The smile stayed exactly the same. I've seen enemy combatants realize they've been caught, watched their faces, the micro-expressions, the slight widening of eyes, the tension. Mark's face didn't move at all. "Mark?" I said quietly. "What are you?" His face split open, not slowly, like Martha's double, fast. The skin tore apart down the middle with a wet, ripping sound. The two halves peeled back like a flower opening. The black mass inside lunged across the table. I had my gun out. It's a Magnum, standard for Alaska mail carriers because of bears, but it was already on me. It was fast, impossibly fast. Crossed 8 feet before I could fully aim. I fired. The shot was deafening in the small house. Hit center mass. The bullet punched through. I saw the hole, but no blood, no reaction. It tackled me. We went down hard. My head cracked against the floor. Its body was wrong. I could feel it through the clothes. No bones, no rigid structure, like grabbing a bag full of something soft and alive. It moved under my hands, squirming, writhing. The hands closed around my throat. The fingers were too long. They wrapped around my neck once, twice, constricting like tentacles. The pressure was immediate and enormous. I looked up into the open face. The head was hollow, a cavity where a brain should be. The walls were lined with those black tendrils, all moving independently, reaching toward me, and the teeth, hundreds of them, tiny and sharp, lining the inside of the skin like the entire head was just a mouth turned inside out. They were snapping, biting at air, making tiny clicking sounds. The smell was overwhelming. Ammonia and rotting ocean. I gagged. My vision started to tunnel, black creeping in from the edges. Marine training. When grappling, use your strongest weapons against their weakest points. I still had my gun. I jammed it into the open face cavity and fired. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound was muffled inside its head, but the effect was immediate. It screamed. Not with a mouth, it didn't have one. The sound came from inside it, resonating through the hollow cavity, like whale song mixed with metal, scraping metal, low and high frequencies at once. So loud my ears went instantly muffled, ringing. The hands released. I sucked in air. It scrambled backward, moving on all fours, that horrible spider-like motion. I fired at its leg, hit. The leg buckled, but it didn't stop, didn't slow, just kept moving. It reached the door, tore it open, ran outside. I chased it to the doorway, fired twice more at its back. Missed once, hit once, didn't matter. It reached the beach, dove into the water, gone. Kelly found the real Mark 20 minutes later. He was in the boat shed behind their house, naked, unconscious, covered in a clear, viscous slime that stank of ocean. His skin was ice cold, hypothermic, but alive. We got him to the clinic. He woke up 3 hours later. "What happened?" I asked him. I was checking the boat engine. Something was wrong with it. Then, nothing. Where's my clothes? Don't remember anything else? No. How long was I out? 26 hours. His face went white. What? Kelly held his hand. She was crying again. That's when I understood. They weren't killing people. They were replacing them, temporarily, studying them, learning to be them. Then returning the originals alive, with no memory of the time lost. But why? Week 3 was when everything got worse. I couldn't tell who was real anymore. I estimated 40 to 60 mimics active in the village at any given time. Population 563. That meant almost 10% of the village was fake, and they were good now, nearly perfect. I developed tests, blink test. Real humans blink 15 to 20 times per minute. Varies with stress, tiredness, concentration. Mimics blinked exactly every 8 seconds, like clockwork. I started carrying a stopwatch everywhere. Temperature test. Real humans are 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Mimics were 86 degrees, cold to touch. I shook everyone's hand, every time. Smell test. Mimics smelled faintly of ocean and ammonia. Most people didn't notice, but I did, always. Memory test. Mimics could recite facts perfectly, dates, names, events, but they couldn't fake emotions convincingly. Ask about a dead relative. Real humans get that specific look, that micro-expression of grief. Mimics just don't. The facts are right, but the feeling is missing. But these tests required close contact, and when exposed, the mimics fought. I exposed Sarah Kickett's double in the community centre. 20 people there for bingo night. The moment it realised I'd identified it, after I'd clocked its exact 8-second blink interval and casually mentioned it smelled like the ocean, its face split open. It attacked everyone, not just me, everyone. It moved at that impossible speed, darting between people faster than I could track. Its skin split in multiple places, arms, chest, back, revealing the black, writhing mass underneath. It was trying to drag people toward the door, toward the ocean. It grabbed old Robert by the arm and lifted him. He weighs 200 pounds. It threw him 12 feet. He hit the wall hard. Its strength was inhuman. It picked up a solid wood table with one arm and swung it like a bat. I fired 7 shots, hit with 5. It finally went down, twitching, reaching toward the door with elongating fingers. The crowd, they'd seen enough. Someone grabbed kerosene from the generator shed. We burned it. It screamed for 4 minutes while it burned. The sound was horrible, that whale metal screech, rising and falling, like it was trying to form words but couldn't. The smell was worse. Burning fish, sulfur, ammonia, and under that, the sweet, sick smell of cooking meat. Everyone was gagging, eyes watering. When the fire died, there was nothing left but ash and a puddle of black liquid. No bones, no organs, no recognizable structure. Just that liquid, thick like oil, spreading across the floor. It smelled like the deepest part of the ocean. Robert, the elder I'd thrown, stared at it. "Komodnik," he whispered. "What?" The old people, my grandmother's grandmother, told stories, things from the deep ocean, before the ice. They wore seal skins to walk on land, studied the animals, learned from them, then went back to the deep. But that was 1,000 years ago, maybe more. They shouldn't be here now. Why are they back? He looked at me with ancient, sad eyes. The ocean is warm now. Warmer than it's been in 10,000 years. The ice is gone. All that deep water that used to be frozen. It's open now. Maybe they've been down there all this time, waiting, and now they can come back up. Week 4. I found where they were keeping people. I'd been tracking patterns. People would disappear for 12 to 48 hours, then reappear with no memory. Always the same people who'd had confirmed mimics, always near the beach. I started searching the coastline. There's a cave system north of the village, carved by water and ice over millennia. Most locals avoid it, unstable, dangerous. I went anyway. The smell hit me 50 yards from the entrance. Seaweed and ammonia, so strong I had to breathe through my mouth. Inside I found them, 12 villagers, alive, naked, unconscious, arranged in a circle on the cave floor. They were covered in that clear slime, thick layers of it, like they'd been dipped in glue. Their chests rose and fell slowly, breathing, but that wasn't the worst part. The eggs, thousands of them, lining the cave walls, each the size of a softball, translucent. And inside each one, something was moving, small shadows, developing, growing. I got closer to one egg, pressed my face near the membrane. Inside was a miniature version of the creatures, 6 inches long, all black flesh and tendrils. It sensed me somehow, pressed against the membrane. Its mouth cavity opened, showing rings of tiny developing teeth. They weren't just studying us, they were breeding, colonizing. The plan was clear. 1, replace key people, hunters, leaders, the pilot. 2, learn perfect human behavior. 3, breed a new generation. 4, spread to other villages. 5. Eventually replace humans entirely. Along the coast, climate change had opened the door. Warming oceans, melting ice, coastal access they hadn't had in millennia. Shishmaref was the test site. If it worked here, they'd expand. I could call for help, but the radio operator, I'd tested him, blinked every 8 seconds exactly, compromised. I could evacuate, but the pilot, same problem. Mimic, or I could fight. I chose fight. I recruited 8 people I was absolutely certain were real. People I'd tested thoroughly multiple times in multiple ways. People I trusted with my life. We planned the raid for the next day at noon, the 2 hours of weak daylight we still had. We brought guns, 12, assorted. Molotov cocktails, 40, made from kerosene and beer bottles. Bleach bombs, improvised, bleach in sealed containers with contact fuses. Fresh water, 100 gallons in 5 containers. The fresh water was key. Robert said the old stories mentioned that Kamutnik couldn't handle fresh water. They were adapted to salt water, and fresh water burned them like acid. We entered the cave at noon exactly. They were waiting, not mimics in human form. Their true forms, 7 feet tall, bodies like enormous slugs, no bones, no skeleton, just muscle and that black flesh glistening with mucus. Dozens of tendrils instead of arms, each one 10 feet long, writhing like snakes. The heads were just openings, circular mouths lined with concentric rings of teeth going deeper and deeper into the body. There were 43 of them, plus thousands of eggs, and us. 8 humans. Light them up, I said. We threw the Molotovs. Their slime was highly flammable. The creatures ignited like torches. The cave filled with fire and that horrible screaming, the whale metal sound, but from 40 throats at once. The noise was so loud I felt it in my chest, vibrating my ribs. But they didn't die easy. One creature, burning, flesh, blackening, wrapped its tendrils around Josh. Josh was a fisherman. 240 pounds of muscle. Didn't matter. The tendrils squeezed. I heard his ribs crack. Multiple breaks. The sound was like green wood snapping. Josh screamed. The tendrils pulled him toward the creature's mouth. The rings of teeth were rotating, grinding, ready to pull him in. I shot the tendrils. 3 shots. They severed. Josh dropped, clutching his chest, gasping. Another creature spat at us, a black, liquid projectile, like a squid's ink, but thicker. It hit Anna's arm, her coat started smoking, then her skin, the liquid burned through flesh like acid, chemical burn. Her skin blistered instantly, bubbling and peeling. She screamed. We hit that one with fresh water, poured it directly on the creature. The water hit its flesh and sizzled. Steam rose. The creature thrashed, its scream reaching a pitch that made my nose bleed. The water was dissolving it, liquefying the black flesh like salt on a slug. The fight was chaos, fire and screaming and gunshots echoing in the cave. The creatures were dying, but they were taking us apart. Tom took a tendril through the shoulder. It punched through muscle and came out his back. Sarah got grabbed by 3 tendrils at once, lifted off the ground, shaken like a doll. I emptied my gun into creatures, threw Molotovs until my arm ached, poured fresh water until the containers were empty. The cave began to collapse. Fire weakened the ice above. Chunks of frozen earth the size of cars fell from the ceiling. One crushed a creature, another nearly hit me. I dove aside, felt the impact through the ground. 47 minutes, that's how long we fought. When it was over, 38 creatures dead. All the eggs destroyed, but at least 6 creatures escaped into the ocean. I saw them dive in, swimming faster than anything natural. Josh had 4 broken ribs and a punctured lung. Anna's arm was chemical burned. 3rd degree Tom needed 57 stitches. Sarah had internal bleeding. We rescued the 12 imprisoned. Villagers. Alive, traumatized, but alive. I reported everything, called the authorities, filed official reports. 3 days later, CDC arrived in biosafety suits. They examined the cave. Took samples, took the burned remains. 2 weeks later, official report. Mass hysteria event caused by carbon monoxide poisoning from faulty generators. No evidence of unknown creatures. The 38 creatures were seals affected by toxic algae bloom, causing unusual behavior and neurological symptoms. Or the burned remains? Removed for environmental cleanup, standard procedure. The 12 survivors confirmed my story. All of them, identical accounts. Official response, shared delusion from CO poisoning. All witnesses experienced same hallucination due to prolonged exposure. The CDC samples. Classified for ongoing research, the cave was sealed with concrete. Unstable, dangerous, do not enter. That was 18 months ago. I'm still in Shishmaref, still delivering mail, but now I'm hunting too. I carry my gun, a homemade flamethrower, technically illegal, don't care, and 50 gallons of fresh water in my truck. I test everyone, every day. I've killed 47 mimics personally. Other villages are reporting incidents. Kivalina, 3 confirmed doubles. Point Hope, 7 people found with no memory of previous days' wails. Strange sounds from the ocean at night. Residents acting off. The creatures are expanding. Slowly, carefully, learning from mistakes. I've trained 12 other mail carriers and bush pilots to recognize the signs. We've formed a network, the Real Humans Protocol. We test each other daily. We've killed over 200 mimics across 12 villages in 18 months. But we don't know how many are left or how many more are coming. The mimics are adapting faster than we can keep up. Latest ones blink at random intervals, learned. Body temperature increasing, getting closer to human normal, adapting. Smell fainter, harder to detect, improving camouflage. Emotional responses better, learning to fake feelings. Last week, something happened I can't explain. Village Christmas party, 47 people present. I tested everyone throughout the night. Casual touches for temperature, timed conversations for blinks, memory questions disguised as small talk. 8 of them failed multiple tests. 8 mimics, drinking cocoa, singing carols, playing with children, indistinguishable unless you knew exactly what to look for. One of them looked at me across the room, held my gaze. Its smile was slightly too wide, just a fraction, but I saw it. It knew I knew, and it smiled wider. I don't know if we're winning this fight. Every mimic we kill, 2 more appear. They're learning faster than we can adapt. They're more patient than we can sustain. Other mail carriers are getting tired, paranoid. Some quit, others just stop testing. Easier to pretend it's not happening. But I can't stop, because I've seen what they're planning. I've seen the eggs. I know what happens if they succeed. Every morning I wake up and test myself, count my own blinks, take my temperature, check my memories for gaps. Every night I lie awake wondering if tomorrow is the day I wake up in a cave covered in slime while something wearing my face delivers mail to people I love. I deliver mail because someone has to, because the moment we all stop, the moment we give up, they've won. And maybe because I left the Marines to avoid violence, but the violence followed me anyway. Maybe some of us are just meant to fight. Different enemy, same war. The ocean is warming, the ice is melting, the door is open, and they're coming through. If you live on the coast, any coast, start paying attention. Count people's blinks, check their temperature, notice the smell, because the Skamutnik are patient. They've waited 1,000 years. They can wait a few more while they learn to be us. And once they've learned well enough, you won't be able to tell the difference unless you're counting. So count. Always count. My name is Linda Hargrove, and I've been driving school buses for 11 years. I started back in Michigan, but I moved to Alaska 7 years ago after my divorce. My daughter was grown, and I needed a fresh start. Kobuk seemed like the right place. Small, quiet, safe. Population 151. Everyone knows everyone. I drive for Kobuk School, kindergarten through 12th grade. All the kids in one building. My route covers 18 miles, picking up kids from scattered homes along the Kobuk River. 23 students total. I know every single one of them. Their names, their grades, their favorite seats, their moods. After 11 years of driving, you notice things, you notice when something's off. What happened last September changed everything I thought I knew about this village, about what lives here, about what's been watching us. This isn't a ghost story. I wish it was. My day starts at 6:30 a.m. I do my bus inspection. Lights, brakes, tires, emergency exits. Standard stuff. The bus is a 2019 International, nothing fancy, but it runs good in the cold. By 7 a.m. I'm on Route 12, heading to my first stop. September in Kobuk means fall is here. We get about 8 hours of daylight. Mornings are dark, around 35 degrees. The kids wear heavy coats, boots, gloves. They're Alaska kids, tough, quiet, respectful. They say good morning, take their seats, do their homework, or stare out the windows. I've got 17 stops total. Some stops are just one kid, some are siblings. Stop number 7 is Emma Willow, 8 years old, 3rd grade. Emma is always early, always waiting at the end of her driveway with her pink backpack. Always smiling, always excited to get on the bus. Emma's a good kid. Her mom works at the village store. Her dad does maintenance at the school. Emma sits in the 3rd row, left side. Same seat every day. She likes to draw pictures during the ride, shows them to me when she gets off. Mostly drawings of dogs and houses. That morning, September 23rd, Emma was waiting like always. I pulled up, opened the door, and she climbed on. "Good morning, Mrs. Hargrove," she said. "Morning, Emma," I said. She walked to her seat and sat down, and that's when I felt it. Something wrong. I couldn't tell you what it was. Emma looked normal. Same clothes, jeans, purple jacket, pink backpack, same voice, same smile. But something in my gut said, no, that's not right. I watched her in my rearview mirror as I drove. Emma sat perfectly still, too still. Kids fidget, they bounce, they look around, they shift in their seats. Emma just sat there, hands folded, staring straight ahead. "Emma, you feeling okay?" I called back. "Yes, Mrs. Hargrove," she said. Instant response, no pause, no or yeah, I guess. Just perfect. At school, I watched Emma get off the bus. Her movements were stiff, like she was counting each step. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not natural, not kid-like. I shook my head. Probably nothing. Maybe she didn't sleep well. That afternoon, I picked the kids up at 3:30 p.m. Emma got on the bus, went to her usual seat. But this time she was different, bouncing, talking to the other kids, giggling, normal. "Emma, you seem more energetic now," I said. "I guess. I don't know," she said. Typical kid answer. I was confused. Morning, Emma was wrong. Afternoon, Emma was right. What happened at school that changed her? When we reached Emma's stop, I watched her walk toward her house. And that's when I saw it. 2 Emmas, walking side by side, same clothes, same backpack, identical. I blinked hard, looked again. Only one Emma now. I gripped the steering wheel, told myself I was tired, long day, eyes playing tricks, but I knew what I saw. The next day, 3 kids were wrong. Emma, Jacob, 10 years old, and Sarah, 7 years old. All 3 sat too still, too quiet, too perfect. Their answers when I talked to them were instant and emotionless. That afternoon, all 3 were normal again, loud, fidgety, acting like kids. By day 5, 7 kids were showing the same pattern, wrong in the morning, right in the afternoon. I stayed at school during lunch that day, watched the playground. The 7 wrong kids stood together in a group. They didn't play, didn't run, just stood there watching the other kids. Their eyes followed the other children like they were studying them. I walked over. "You kids okay? Why aren't you playing?" "We are playing," Emma said. "You call this playing?" I asked. Yes, this is play, Emma said. No doubt in her voice, like she absolutely believed it. I looked into Emma's eyes. Her pupils were huge, completely dilated. In bright daylight, they should have been small, and her eyes didn't track right. When I moved, her eyes followed a half-second late, like a delay. I reported it to Principal Jeffries. Something's wrong with some of the kids, I said. They're probably tired, he said. New school year, they're adjusting. No, I said. This isn't normal. He agreed to watch them. We stood outside a classroom window and observed the 7 kids. They sat perfectly straight, hands folded, no slouching, no fidgeting. When the teacher asked a question, all 7 raised their hands at the exact same time, same speed, same angle, like puppets on strings. When called on, they answered with perfect grammar, no or no hesitation. That's not normal kid behavior, I said. That's something pretending to be a kid. We called the school nurse, Patricia. She examined all 7, body temperature 94 degrees, all 7, exact same number, heart rate 52 beats per minute, all 7, exactly the same. Pupils, fully dilated, didn't react to light. When she pricked their fingers for a blood test, they didn't flinch, no pain response at all. These kids need a hospital, Patricia said. This is serious. We called the parents. When they arrived and saw their children, they knew immediately. That's not my daughter, Emma's mum said. That looks like Emma, but it's not her. I know my child. Jacob's dad grabbed my arm. Where's my son? What did you do with him? We did DNA tests, cheek swabs. The results came back positive, genetically. These were the same kids, but the parents wouldn't accept it. They knew, deep down, they knew these weren't their children. The village organized search parties. In a town of 151 people, everyone helps. We searched for 2 days. We found them in an abandoned house at the edge of town. All 7 kids, unconscious, breathing but not waking, lying in rows on the floor. The room was freezing, 40 degrees. The door and windows were open, but the kids' body temperature was normal, 98.6 degrees. They were somehow generating their own heat. Each child had marks on their neck, 2 puncture wounds, deep. Dr. Sarah, our village health aide, examined them. These punctures go all the way to the spine, she said. Something was injected into their central nervous system. I searched the house. In the basement, I found 7 cocoons made of white, fibrous material, like silk, but thicker. They were empty now, still damp, recently empty. Something had been growing inside them, something that emerged and walked into our school, pretending to be our children. In the corner, I found shed skin, translucent, fragile, human-shaped but wrong. The arms were too long, the fingers, 7 on each hand instead of 5. The skull was stretched, elongated. This thing had molted like an insect, left its old skin behind. The next day I confronted the copy of Emma at school, pulled her into an empty classroom, just the 2 of us. "What are you?" I asked. "I am Emma Willow," she said. No emotion, flat voice. "No, you're not." "Where's the real Emma?" "I am real." She tilted her head. Too far. 45 degrees. No human neck bends like that. I grabbed her arm. Her skin felt wrong. Too smooth, too cool, like plastic. "Show me what you really are," I said. Her face split open. Not sideways like a mouth, vertically, from her forehead to her chin. The skin peeled back like curtains. Underneath was nothing human, just a smooth, pale surface, blank. 2 black holes where eyes should be, and a mouth that formed from nowhere. A circle ringed with tiny teeth. The creature lunged at me. It was fast, crossed the room in 1 second, tackled me. Its grip was crushing. Its hands had too many joints, fingers bending in impossible ways. I grabbed scissors from the teacher's desk, stabbed it in the torso. No blood, just clear fluid. It didn't slow down, the circular mouth attached to my forearm, teeth cutting through my sleeve, latching onto my skin, sucking. I felt it draining something from me, not blood, something else, like it was pulling out my energy. I punched its blank face, heard a cracking sound like breaking plastic. It released me and stumbled back. I ran, locked the door, trapped it inside. Through the window I watched its face reform, the split sealed, molded back into Emma's face, perfect again. It smiled at me, waved. We gathered the staff and confronted all 7 creatures together. They didn't fight this time. They talked. "We mean no harm," the Emma creature said. "We are learning. We need to understand humans. Children are easiest to copy. We study the originals, learn their patterns, then return them." "What are you?" I asked. "We have no name. We came from beneath. The permafrost melted. We emerged. We are old, older than humans. We lived here before ice. We slept. Now ice is gone. We wake. How many of you are there?" "In this village, 7. In Alaska, many thousands. We study humans, we learn, and soon we decide." "Decide what? If humans are compatible, or if humans must be removed?" We tried to contain them. Principal Jeffrey shot one with his pistol. 3 shots, center mass. It leaked clear fluid, but kept moving. Patricia sprayed another with a fire extinguisher. The chemical foam burned it. Its fake skin bubbled and peeled. Underneath was a pale, segmented body. Multiple joints, wrong proportions. We set one on fire with hand sanitizer. It burned for 4 minutes, thrashing, screaming, a sound like grinding metal mixed with insect clicks. When it finally stopped moving, I saw its true form. 5 feet tall, insect-like, segmented body with hard plates, arms with 3 elbows, legs bent backwards, no face, just smooth chitin with dark eye holes and that circular mouth. The other 6 escaped, ran out of the school at impossible speed, disappeared into the forest. The real children woke up when the creatures fled. They had no memory of being taken, no memory of the puncture wounds. Within 3 hours, the marks healed completely. No scars. 1 creature was dead. 6 escaped. The children were safe. But I knew the truth. This was just 7 creatures in one village. I contacted other villages, confirmed similar reports. Strange children, unconscious kids found in abandoned buildings. Same puncture wounds. The creatures were systematically studying children across Alaska. Learning our behavior, our weaknesses, our strengths. They were deciding if humans should be allowed to stay. I reported everything to Alaska state troopers. They investigated. Official report, isolated incident, unknown animal attack, children found safe, no evidence of creatures. The burned creature's body was gone before they arrived. No evidence remained. I was told to stop spreading panic. But I know they're still out there, still studying, still deciding. Last month, I picked up my students on the morning route. All 23 kids boarded. I watched them in my rearview mirror, counted how often they blinked. 14 kids blinked normally. Random intervals. 9 kids blinked at the exact same time, every 8 seconds, in perfect unison. 9 copies were on my bus. I didn't react, didn't let them know I could tell. Dropped everyone at school like normal, but I know they're back. The evaluation continues. How long until they finish studying us? What happens when they decide we're not compatible? I still drive my route every day. I still watch my kids. And I circle the ones who aren't real, documenting, waiting. They're getting better at pretending. Soon, we won't be able to tell the difference. And then they'll decide. God help us when they decide. My name is Raymond Park, and I've been running the Kobuk General Store in Alaska for 16 years. People ask me why a Korean American from San Francisco would move to a village of 332 people where the sun doesn't rise for 2 months and temperatures hit 50 below. The truth? I was running from a failed marriage and a city that made me feel invisible. Here, I'm not invisible. I'm the guy who keeps everyone fed. When old Martha Apangaluk needs her diabetes medicine, I'm the one who makes sure it's on the next plane. When Tom Kunuk's daughter wants a doll for her birthday, I special order it. This place adopted me when nobody else wanted me. But what arrived in our January shipment made me wish I'd stayed invisible. It was February 3rd, 2025. The supply plane touched down at noon, our only delivery for 2 weeks. My part-timers, Tom and his son Michael, helped unload 400 boxes in the 3 hours of dim twilight we get this time of year. Tom's been my friend since I arrived. He taught me how to ice fish, how to survive the winter darkness. Michael's 19, saving money for college in Anchorage. Good kid, always smiling. "Heavy one, Ray?" Tom grunted, dropping a box marked canned vegetables. His breath made clouds in the frozen air. "You order bricks?" "Just means we're eating good this month," I said. After they left, I started my inventory check in the back room. Box 246, pasta and rice, all good. Box 247, canned vegetables. I opened it and my stomach dropped. Every single can was bulging. 48 cans, tops and bottoms swollen outward. Botulism contamination, deadly if consumed. I'd seen this maybe twice in 16 years, 1 or 2 cans in a shipment, never an entire box. I opened box 248, all bulging. Box 249, same thing, 12 boxes, 576 contaminated cans. I picked one up carefully. I'm certified in food safety, and froze. The can was warm. It should have been ice cold from the cargo hold, and it was moving, pulsing rhythmically like something breathing inside. I held it to my ear, wet clicking sounds, scratching, something alive in there. My hands started itching immediately after I set it down. I scrubbed them 3 times, but the itching spread up my arms. I wheeled all 12 boxes to the walk-in freezer and locked them inside. Tomorrow I'd figure out proper disposal. Tonight, I needed sleep. At 2 a.m., my security alarm woke me. Motion sensor in the back room. The wind was howling. A blizzard had started, the kind where you can't see 5 feet. I grabbed my flashlight and headed down in long underwear and boots. The store was dark except for red emergency lights that made everything look like a crime scene. The freezer door stood open. I'd locked it. I know I did. All 576 cans were arranged on the floor in a perfect circle. Some had opened, not cut open, but pushed open from inside. Black sludge oozed out, thick and oily, crawling across the concrete like it had somewhere to be. It smelled like burning hair and rotting fish. I grabbed a mop and touched the sludge. The wooden handle disintegrated, just rotted away in 3 seconds, crumbling to black dust. "What the hell?" I whispered. I used a metal shovel instead. The sludge didn't corrode metal, and scooped it into a bucket. When I carried it outside, the blizzard nearly knocked me flat. I dumped it 100 feet away and watched through the blowing snow. The sludge hit the ground, steaming and hissing, but it didn't freeze. And then it started crawling back toward my store. I burned all the cans in my incinerator at dawn. They screamed as they burned, a sound like metal grinding mixed with something almost human. The smoke was black and toxic. I breathed some and couldn't stop coughing. I coughed up black stuff that looked like tar. The black spots appeared on my hands that afternoon. Small dots where I'd touched the first can. They itched so intensely I wanted to peel my skin off. By the next day, they'd spread to my arms. By day 4, they covered my chest, neck, and face. I went to Martha Apangaluk, our health aide. She's 68, been taking care of this village for 30 years. When she saw my arms, her face went pale. Raymond, I've never... She touched one spot gently. This doesn't look like anything natural. I'm sending samples to Anchorage, but it'll take a week. 3 of my workers have it too, I said. Tom, Michael, and Sarah. Her eyes widened. This is spreading? That's when Tom walked in. He and Michael had the same black spots on their hands and arms. Sarah Chen, my cashier, 23 years old, dreams of being a teacher, came in an hour later with spots crawling up her neck. We were all infected. On day 8, my spots opened. Each black dot developed a tiny hole, maybe 2 millimeters across. Inside was just darkness, but I could see something moving in there. I sterilized a pair of tweezers and pulled something out of a spot on my forearm. A black worm emerged, 3 inches long, thin as hair, covered in slime. It wrapped around the tweezers and squeezed. The metal bent. I dropped it. The worm hit the floor and burrowed straight through the linoleum and disappeared. "Sarah!" I called into the store. My voice was shaking. "Call everyone. Emergency meeting, now." An hour later, 20 people crowded into my store, everyone healthy enough to come. Tom stood next to me, his son Michael beside him. Michael's spots had reached his face. He looked terrified. "Show them," Tom said quietly. I pulled up my sleeve. 47 black holes in my arm, writhing with movement. Someone gasped. Old Joseph Irigu, one of the Yupik elders, stepped forward. He was 74, traditional hunter, spoke Yupik and English. "The land is sick," he said. "My grandfather told stories about this. Long ago, something came from the sky and poisoned the earth. The elders had to abandon their village and burn it." "Joseph, this isn't folklore," Martha said gently. "No," he said, looking at me with ancient eyes. "This is the same. Something brought this. Something wants us gone." That night, I woke to worms crawling on my bed. 30 of them, maybe more, burrowing into my mattress, the walls, the floor. I caught one in a metal container and examined it under magnifying glass. It wasn't organic. The body had segments with tiny mechanical-looking legs. The head had a drill-like structure. This thing had been engineered by someone for a purpose. I called the supplier in Anchorage the next morning. "Those cans," the woman said. "New distributor, Ridgeline Arctic Supply Corporation. They offered us an amazing deal. 10,000 cans, distributed to 40 villages across Alaska. Cheapest price we'd ever seen." My blood went cold. "Do you have a contact?" "I tried calling after you mentioned contamination. Numbers disconnected. Their warehouse address doesn't exist. It's like they vanished." I hung up and stared at the wall. 10,000 cans, 40 villages. This was deliberate. Someone was depopulating Alaska. By week 3, 47 people were infected. The worms were everywhere, eating through everything organic. Houses collapsed as wooden frames rotted. Food spoiled instantly when the black sludge touched it. Vehicle tires and rubber gaskets dissolved. Tom came to see me one evening. He'd lost 20 pounds. His eyes were sunken. "Michael's getting worse," he said. "Martha thinks he has maybe a week. The worms are..." His voice broke. "They're eating him from inside, Ray. I'm so sorry. You didn't do this, but we need to get people out. The runway, it's compromised. I checked this morning. The asphalt's crumbling." Tom looked at me for a long moment. "The old military base, 40 miles north, they stored chemical weapons during the Cold War. Chlorine compounds. You think it could work? It's the only chance Michael has." We left at dawn. Me, Tom, Michael, and 2 others. The snowmobile ride took 3 hours through blinding white. The base buildings were half collapsed, but we found the bunker. Inside, the walls were covered in worms, millions of them moving like a living carpet. The grinding, clicking sound was deafening. "There!" Michael pointed at barrels labeled CL2. We grabbed the barrels. The worms attacked. They swarmed Michael first. He screamed, "God!" he screamed, as they covered his face. He clawed at them, but they poured into his mouth, his nose, his eyes. "Michael!" Tom dropped his barrel and ran to his son. He pulled worms away with his bare hands, but more kept coming. Michael collapsed. The worms burrowed into his skull. We could see them moving under his skin, spreading across his scalp. He choked once, twice, and died, drowning in worms. Tom cradled his son's body, sobbing. "No, no, no, please God, no. Tom, we have to go." I grabbed his arm, but he wouldn't move. "I'm not leaving him. He's gone. We have to save the others." More worms poured from the walls. I lit a flare, and through it, everything caught fire. Tom finally stumbled away from Michael's body as the bunker exploded behind us. We returned to Kobuk with 10 barrels, 2,000 gallons, enough to treat essential areas, the runway, the water supply, the clinic. We saved what we could, but I was dying. Hundreds of worms inside me, eating my liver, my kidneys, my lungs. I'd lost 40 pounds. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every breath hurt. Tom found me in the clinic on day 32. He looked hollow. His son was dead. His home was collapsing. His community was being evacuated. "You're really going to do it?" he asked. I looked at the bottle of chlorine on the table. 20 ounces, enough to kill me and every worm inside me. "Someone needs to," I said. "Someone needs to show them it works, that people can be saved if treated early. You're not just someone, Ray, you're my best friend." I started crying. I couldn't help it. "I came here to disappear, Tom, but you made me visible. This whole village did. Let me do this one last thing." He hugged me tight. "You gave us 16 years, brother. That's more than enough. Take care of Sarah. Make sure she gets to college. I promise." After Tom left, Martha came in. She held my hand while I drank the chlorine. It burned going down, burned like acid in my stomach. The worms started dying immediately, pouring from my mouth, my nose, my pores, hundreds of them, all dead. Martha's face was the last thing I saw. She was crying. "You saved us, Raymond," she whispered. "You saved us." The chlorine treatment worked. 280 people evacuated safely. The runway held long enough. The water supply stayed clean for 3 months, but 52 people stayed. 2 attached to home, 2 stubborn to leave. They lasted 4 months. Their last radio transmission in October was just screaming and wet, grinding sounds. We never heard from them again. The investigation went nowhere. Ridgeline Arctic Supply Corporation was a shell company, untraceable, but I know what happened. Someone, a corporation, a government, something, wanted Alaska depopulated. The resources here are worth trillions. Oil, minerals, pristine land. And now 40 villages are abandoned, black zones where nothing organic can survive. The contaminated area spreads 1 mile per month. In 10 years, how much of Alaska will be gone? They named the school after me in Nome, the Raymond Park Memorial School. Tom sends me pictures sometimes in my dreams. But I know the truth. I didn't stop it. I just bought time. Those worms are still out there, still spreading, still eating, and whoever sent them is still free. If you get a shipment in an isolated place, Alaska, Canada, anywhere remote, check everything. If cans are bulging, if they're warm, if you hear clicking inside, don't touch them. Run. Because what happened to Kobuk wasn't an accident, it was a test, and they're just getting started. My name is Michael Chen, and I was a village electrician for 13 years. I worked for the Alaska Village Electric Cooperative, maintaining power lines and generators in the most remote places you can imagine. I'd fix cables in -40-degree weather. I'd climbed poles during blizzards. I'd kept the lights on in villages where the nearest backup was 300 miles away. I thought I'd seen everything this job could throw at me. But in March 2025, something happened in Anvik, Alaska that changed everything. Something that made me realize the ground beneath our feet was hiding secrets we were never meant to discover. Anvik is tiny, 81 people. Sits right on the Yukon River, surrounded by nothing but wilderness. I'd been working there for 3 years, and I knew every cable, every junction box, every inch of underground wire. Hey, the village depended on me to keep the power running. Without electricity, you die out here. It's that simple. What I'm about to tell you sounds impossible. I know that. But I've got scars that prove every word is true. And if you ever work in rural Alaska, if you ever dig into ground that's been frozen for thousands of years, you need to know what might be waiting down there, because they're waking up and they're hungry. The call came on March 14th around 2 p.m. Complete power outage, north side of the village, 12 houses, standard stuff. Probably an animal chewed through a cable, or the spring thaw shifted something underground. But something felt wrong from the start. The temperature had been weird all week. It went from -20 to 40 degrees in just 5 days. That doesn't happen, not even with climate change. The permafrost was melting so fast you could watch the ground turn soft. I grabbed my tools and drove to the site. Found the cable route, started digging. 3 feet down, I should have hit frozen ground. Permafrost is supposed to be permanently frozen. That's what the name means. But my shovel went into mud, soft, wet mud. I kept digging. 6 feet, 8 feet, still mud. The permafrost had melted all the way down. Then I found the cable, and that's when everything changed. The cable wasn't broken, it was shredded, torn apart like something with claws had ripped through it. Not a clean cut, not wear and tear, destroyed. I'd been doing this job for 13 years. I'd seen cables damaged by rocks, by water, by equipment. This was different. This was violence. Then I saw the tracks, 3 toes. Each toe ended in a claw mark that was 4 inches long. The print itself was 18 inches. Whatever made these tracks was massive, and the tracks didn't come from the surface. They came from deeper, from below the cable. Something had burrowed up from the deep ground, torn through my cable and gone back down. I stood there in that hole, 10 feet deep, staring at those tracks. My heart was pounding. I'd worked in bear country my whole life. These weren't bear prints. They weren't anything I'd ever seen. That's when I heard it. A sound from underground. Faint but clear. Click, 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 scratch, grinding. Something was moving down there. I fixed the cable. Didn't tell anyone about the tracks. Thought maybe I was seeing things. Tired, stressed. I'd been working 60-hour weeks, but over the next 7 days, 8 more cables failed. All underground, all shredded the exact same way, and every single site had those 3-toed tracks. I started mapping the damage. The pattern was obvious. The breaks formed a circle around the village, like something was testing our infrastructure, learning about us. On day 7, I found the hole. I was checking another cable when I saw it, a hole in the ground that hadn't been there yesterday, 2 feet across, perfectly round. I dropped a flashlight down on a rope, 40 feet, 60 feet, 80 feet. The rope ran out. The hole kept going. The walls were smooth, not natural. Something had dug this. Something had made a tunnel. I lowered my GoPro camera down. At 60 feet, the tunnel opened into a chamber, maybe 20 feet wide. The walls were covered in scratches, thousands of claw marks and bones scattered on the floor. Caribou bones, wolf bones, moose skulls, old bones, decades old, preserved by the permafrost. Whatever lived down there had been there a long time. It had been frozen. Now the ice was melting, and it was waking up. 3 days later, I saw one. I was working a night shift repairing another torn cable. I had lights set up around the excavation. The rest of the village was dark, quiet. Then I heard something behind me, movement in the trench. I turned around and something was climbing out of the ground, pulling itself up from the mud. It was 7 feet tall, standing on 2 legs like a person, but hunched over. Its body was covered in dark scales, brown and black, perfect for hiding in dirt. It had 4 legs total, but walked on the back 2. The front legs had 3 fingers, 3 clawed fingers. The head was long and stretched out. No ears, eyes huge and black, made for seeing in the dark. Its mouth was full of needle teeth, and it had a tail, 6 feet long, thick as my leg, dragging behind it. The creature stared at me, not like an animal, like it was thinking, studying me. My truck was 30 feet away, my rifle was in the truck. I always carried one for bears. The creature sniffed, tilted its head, then it moved. It was fast, impossibly fast. It covered 20 feet in 2 seconds. I ran, sprinted to my truck. I could feel its breath on my neck, hot and sulfur-smelling. I grabbed the rifle, spun around. It was gone. I aimed at the trench, heart hammering. Nothing there, just mud. And a new hole where the creature had burrowed back down in seconds. The 3-toed tracks led straight into that hole. That thing had been hunting me. I was prey. I
reported to the village council the next day, showed them the camera footage. Half thought I was crazy. Probably a bear, they said. You were scared, it was dark. But Peter, the village elder, believed me. He was 79, had lived here his whole life. The old stories mention earth demons, he told me. Creatures that burrowed, lived deep underground. They ate caribou, ate people. Then the Ice Age came and froze them. We thought they were extinct. But if they were frozen and preserved and now they're thawing... How many? I asked. The stories say colonies, dozens, maybe hundreds. I borrowed ground-penetrating radar from an oil company, scanned beneath the village. The results made my blood run cold. Massive tunnel networks, hundreds of tunnels, going down 400 feet, covering 2 square miles, and heat signatures, dozens of them, moving. The creatures were down there, living beneath our homes, beneath our feet. 2 days later, Tom Carr disappeared. He was checking his trap line when the ground opened beneath him. Witnesses saw him fall in, heard him scream. Then silence. We found the hole, lowered a camera down. At 80 feet, we found Tom's body, shredded, 3 creatures around him, feeding, tearing flesh. One looked up at the camera, lunged, the feed went black. When we pulled the rope up, the camera was gone, bitten off. That's when the panic started. We were living above a nest of predators, predators that could come up through our floors at any moment. Over the next 4 days, the creatures attacked 12 more times. They burrowed up through living room floors. They killed dogs and chickens. They cut power lines on purpose, creating darkness. They destroyed the runway, collapsing it from underneath. We couldn't fly out. 2 people tried to escape on snow machines. The creatures ambushed them. Both died. We were trapped. I figured out they hated 3 things: bright light, loud noise, and electricity. I came up with a plan: electrify the ground, use the village generator to send current through the earth, create an underground electric fence. We installed 20 electrodes in a circle around the village, 10 feet deep. Then we turned it on, 10,000 volts pulsing through the ground. The creatures fled. The attacks stopped. For 3 days we had peace, but the generator burned 50 gallons of fuel every day. We had 400 gallons left, 8 days of power. Then what? On day 24, the generator failed. Too much strain. I needed 4 to 6 hours to fix it. The power stopped. The ground wasn't electrified anymore. 20 minutes later, they came back. 15 creatures burst through the ground at once, through floors, through walls, through the runway again. The villagers fought back with rifles and shotguns, but the creatures were tough. Their scales were thick. They took multiple bullets and kept coming. They smashed through wooden walls like paper. Their tails could break bones. 8 people died in the first 10 minutes. I knew what I had to do. The generator had to run. It was our only protection. But to fix it, I had to shut down the power completely. For 6 hours, I told the others. 72 people defended the generator building while I worked. For 6 hours, the creatures attacked non-stop. 40 of them, wave after wave. The villagers fought with everything we had: guns, fire, propane bombs, axes when the ammunition ran out.
One creature broke into the generator room, came straight for me. I didn't have a weapon, just a live wire in my hand, 220 volts, high amperage. I touched the wire to the creature's scales. It convulsed, didn't die, but it was stunned. I wrapped the wire around its neck, held it there, completing the circuit. The creature thrashed. Its claws tore into my chest. I felt my ribs crack, felt something pop in my lung, but I held on. For 40 seconds, I electrocuted that thing while it tore me apart. Finally, it died, collapsed, smoking. I collapsed too, bleeding out, but the generator was fixed. With my last strength, I threw the power switch, full power, ground electrified. The creatures fled, retreated underground. The attack stopped. I died on that generator room floor, 49 years old. 12 villagers died that day, including me. But 60 survived because of the electric grid. They kept the power running. The creatures stayed deep. But fuel was running low. On day 26, a helicopter evacuated 60 people. 21 stayed behind. Too old, too stubborn, or too injured to move. Day 28, the fuel ran out. The creatures attacked the remaining villagers immediately. They held out in the community center for 48 hours. On day 30, the helicopter returned with fuel. Found the 21 survivors alive, barely. They refueled the generator, electrified the ground, and evacuated everyone. Anvik was abandoned. Scientists studied the dead creatures. DNA showed they were pre-Ice Age species, extinct for 10,000 years, preserved in permafrost, revived by the thaw. Other villages reported similar activity, underground noises, missing livestock, three-toed tracks. How many more colonies are waking up across Alaska? Today, Anvik is a ghost town. The power still runs, remotely maintained. The grid keeps the ground electrified 24/7. But last month, researchers scanned the area again. The tunnel system has doubled in size. Heat signatures show over 200 creatures now. They're breeding, multiplying, growing stronger, all waiting underground, all hungry, all adapting, and the permafrost keeps melting faster every year across the entire Arctic. How many more colonies are down there? How many more villages are built on top of them? We don't know, but we're about to find out. My name is Brett Holloway, and I've been a paramedic for 12 years. 9 of those years were in Boston. Busy streets, gunshot wounds, car crashes, heart attacks. I thought I'd seen everything. 3 years ago, I moved to Alaska for a change of pace. I wanted adventure, isolation, the real wilderness experience. I got a job as the village paramedic in Kaltag, a tiny place on the Yukon River. Population, 190 people. I'm the only medical person for miles, no doctor, no hospital, just me, a small clinic, and a radio. I've handled frostbite, snowmobile accidents, bear attacks. I've delivered babies in -40-degree weather and treated hypothermia so bad the person's core temperature was below 80 degrees. Remote medicine is different. You can't call for backup. You can't transfer patients easily. When someone's dying, you're all they've got. But what happened last December changed everything. Not just about my job, about what I thought was possible in this world, about what's hiding out there in the dark. See, in December, we get something called polar night. The sun doesn't rise for 6 weeks. It's just darkness 24 hours a day. And when it's 50 below zero and pitch black, things move out there, things that shouldn't exist. I'm telling you this story because people need to know this thing I dealt with, it's not the only one. They're spreading. And if you live in rural Alaska, you need to be ready. December 8th, 2024, 2 in the morning. I was asleep when my radio crackled. Brett, you need to come quick. John Masterson collapsed. He's not breathing. I grabbed my gear and ran. In Kaltag, everyone's house is within a 5-minute walk. John's wife met me at the door. She was crying. John was on the floor. 42 years old. Fisherman, healthy guy. His skin was blue. Not the normal blue you see when someone stops breathing. This was darker, wrong. I started CPR immediately, chest compressions, 30 of them, then 2 rescue breaths. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. I kept going, but something felt off. When I pressed down on his chest, it felt hollow, empty, like pushing on a cardboard box. There was no resistance and no bounce back. I thought maybe I was doing it wrong, but I've done CPR hundreds of times. This was different. I needed to get an IV started, standard protocol. I grabbed his arm, found a vein, inserted the needle. No blood came out. I tried again. Different vein. Nothing. I tried his neck. The big jugular vein. That one always works. Still nothing. That's when I knew something was impossible was happening. A human body has about 5 liters of blood, 10 pints. Even if someone bleeds out completely, there's always some blood left in the vessels, always. John had 0 blood, none. His veins were empty, but there were no wounds, no cuts, no holes. His skin was completely intact. I grabbed my scalpel and made a small cut on his forearm. I needed to see inside. The cut opened easily. Inside, his veins looked like collapsed straws, flat, empty, dried out. I pressed on his arm. The flesh felt spongy, like a dried sponge. When I checked his chart later, I realized he weighed 43 pounds, less than his last checkup 3 months ago. 43 pounds. He hadn't lost weight gradually. This happened in one night. That's when I saw them. 2 small marks on his neck, punctures, each one about 2 millimeters wide, spaced 3 inches apart. I took a probe and carefully measured. The holes went deep, 4 inches straight down into his neck, right to where the carotid artery runs. Something had inserted tubes into him and drained him dry. 2 days later, Sarah Pelletier, 31, school teacher, found in her bed, same condition, no blood, puncture marks on her neck, body weight 38 pounds lighter than normal. 2 days after that, Tommy Begay, 16 years old, student, same thing. I laid out the pattern. December 8th, 2 a.m., December 10th, 2 a.m., December 12th, 2 a.m. Every 48 hours, always at 2 in the morning. Something was hunting on a schedule. I examined the puncture wounds under my microscope, found residue around the edges, clear fluid. I didn't have the equipment to analyze it properly, but I could tell it was some kind of chemical, an anticoagulant to keep blood flowing, an anesthetic to numb the area, maybe a paralytic. This was predator saliva, like what a vampire bat has, but 1,000 times stronger. What has saliva like this? Nothing I've ever heard of. I called the state troopers. They said they'd send someone when the weather cleared. Could be a week, could be 2. I was on my own. Day 6, I decided to patrol at night. I borrowed a rifle from a neighbor and walked the village. It was quiet, 50 below zero, snow crunching under my boots, my breath making ice crystals in my flashlight beam. At 2 a.m. exactly, I saw movement, something on a rooftop, large, maybe 8 feet tall but crouched down, moving along the peak like it weighed nothing. I shined my flashlight on it. It jumped 40 feet through the air, landed on another roof without making a sound. I followed it, kept my light on it. My hands were shaking. The thing was pale, so pale its skin looked translucent. I could see veins underneath pulsing, full of blood, stolen blood. It moved like a spider, on all 4s, even though it had a human-like shape. Its arms and legs were too long. When it stood up for a second, I saw it clearly. 8 feet tall, hairless, huge black eyes with no whites, mouth closed, looked almost normal. Then it stopped, turned around, looked right at me. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me not to move. It tilted its head, studying me, then its mouth opened. But not like a normal mouth. The whole bottom part of its face split open, 4 sections, like petals on a flower. Opening wide, inside were 2 long tubes, proboscis, like a mosquito but 18 inches long. Thick as my fingers, with serrated edges, it made a sound, wet, clicking, sucking sounds, like drinking through a straw. Then it came at me, fast, scuttling like a spider. I ran. Behind me, I heard it following. On the rooftops, leaping from building to building, I could hear its claws scraping on the metal roofs. I reached my clinic and slammed the door, locked it. Metal door, security rated. The creature landed on my roof. I heard it walking around up there, scratching, testing for ways in. I grabbed my rifle and waited. After 10 minutes, it went silent, gone. I survived, but now I knew what I was dealing with. Day 8. No new victims. Maybe I scared it off. I went to investigate the old church. That's where I first spotted it. The building had been abandoned for years. Inside, the walls were covered in white webbing. Not spider webs. This was different. Like an organic membrane, sticky, translucent. Hanging from the ceiling were 6 cocoons, human-sized. I cut one open with my knife. Rebecca Sundberg was inside, 45 years old, librarian. She'd been missing for 2 weeks. She was alive but unconscious, breathing slowly. Her body temperature was way too low. She looked like she was hibernating. Her neck had puncture marks, fresh ones, multiple sets. The creature had been feeding on her over and over, keeping her alive, farming her blood. I cut open the other cocoons. 4 more people, all alive, all in hibernation, all with puncture marks. The 6th cocoon had a body. Peter Jackson, dead, completely drained. This thing wasn't just killing randomly, it was intelligent. It was keeping humans alive as a food source. I found something else, a piece of shed skin, paper thin, translucent, with markings on it, tattoos in Russian. I took a picture and used my phone to translate. Specimen number 47, Project Krovossos, unauthorized release prohibited. Krovossos, Russian for bloodsucker. This wasn't a natural animal, it was engineered, a bioweapon. Someone made this thing. And now it was loose in Alaska. I moved the 5 living victims to my clinic, started treating them with IV fluids. But the creature wanted them back. That night it came. It couldn't break into the clinic. Metal building, locked tight. So it waited outside on the roof, making sounds, clicking, wet breathing, scratching on the metal. It was trying to scare us, and it was working. The siege lasted 6 days. The creature wouldn't leave. It stayed near the clinic, waiting for someone to come outside. The whole village was terrified. Everyone locked themselves inside. We were running out of food, fuel, water. I had to do something. The creature's pale skin made me think it was vulnerable to light, UV light specifically, and it preferred extreme cold, so heat might hurt it too.
Set up a trap in the old generator shed. 20 UV bulbs, 5 heat lamps, all wired to one switch. Then I made myself bait. I stepped outside the clinic, alone, holding a high-powered UV flashlight. The creature dropped from the roof, landed 10 feet away. I shined the UV light on it. Its skin started blistering immediately, smoking. The creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal mixed with a human scream. But it didn't run, it charged at me. I ran toward the shed, the creature right behind me. I could feel its cold breath, it smelled like iron and rot. I dove into the shed, the creature followed. I hit the switch, every light came on at once. Maximum power. The UV burned the creature's skin. It melted, bubbled, peeled off like wax. Underneath was just a black skeleton and a network of veins. No muscles, no organs, just blood vessels. The heat dried it out. The vessels cracked, crumbled. It took 4 minutes to die. It writhed on the floor, screaming, burning. Then it was still. The creature was dead. The 5 victims survived, recovered fully after 3 weeks. But when I examined the corpse, I found something that still keeps me up at night. It was female, and it was pregnant. Inside was an egg sac, 40 eggs, each one the size of a softball. They died when she died, but the implication was clear. It was trying to breed. I reported everything to the authorities. They took the body, told me to keep quiet. The Russian government denied everything. No such project existed. But 1 month later,
Another bloodless body was found in Shaktoolik, 2 puncture marks on the neck. A month after that, 3 people found in cocoons in Kobuk, same webbing. In March, a creature was spotted in Nome, 8 feet tall, pale, moving like a spider. They're spreading. I've personally killed 3 more creatures in different villages, but sightings continue. 12 villages have reported them. The worst part? They're learning, adapting. Last month, Barrow reported a sighting, but this one was wearing clothes, a human jacket, human pants, was trying to look human. I still work as a paramedic in Kaltag, but now I also train teams, teach UV light defense, distribute UV flashlights to remote villages. I estimate there are 15 to 20 of these things in Alaska now, maybe more. They hunt at night, they're intelligent, and they're getting smarter. Last week, our security camera caught something on a rooftop. It was wearing clothes. From a distance, it almost looked human. Then it moved, scuttled across the roof like a spider, climbed straight down a wall. It stopped, looked directly at the camera. Its eyes reflected the light, black, inhuman. Its mouth opened, 4-way split, proboscis extended, then it was gone. They're getting better at pretending to be us. How long until we can't tell the difference? If you're in rural Alaska, get a UV flashlight, keep it with you. And if you see someone on a rooftop at 2 a.m. moving wrong, don't go outside, because they're still out there, still hunting, still learning, and they're always hungry. My name is Nicole Bradford, and I've been a weather observer for the National Weather Service for 11 years. I collect data 4 times a day: temperature, wind speed, humidity, pressure. I record everything. I send it to headquarters. That's my job. Simple, routine, scientific. I grew up in Oregon, studied meteorology in college, and fell in love with remote places, the kind of places where you can see the sky forever and hear nothing but wind. That's why I asked for the Gambell Station, St. Lawrence Island, Alaska, population 681, the closest piece of American land to Russia. Most people think it sounds lonely. I thought it sounded perfect. That was before April 2025, before the fog season, before I learned that some things in nature aren't natural at all. Gambell gets fog 20 hours a day during spring, dense, thick fog that cuts visibility to 50 feet. You learn to live with it. You learn to walk carefully, to trust your other senses, to accept that you can't see what's 5 steps ahead of you. The weather station is small, just me and my equipment. A little building on the edge of town. I take readings at 6 in the morning, noon, 6 at night, and midnight. Every single day. The routine keeps me grounded. April 3rd started like any other day. I woke up at 5:45 a.m., made coffee, bundled up against the cold. 35 degrees outside, normal for spring thaw. I grabbed my clipboard and stepped out into the fog. That's when I first noticed it. Fog is supposed to drift. It moves with the wind, swirling randomly without pattern. Natural chaos, but this fog was moving wrong. I stood there, clipboard in hand, watching it. The fog was forming shapes, a spiral. Then it shifted into a square, perfect right angles, then a circle, geometric patterns, deliberate movements. Fog doesn't do that. I breathed in and tasted metal. Copper, like blood. My skin felt wet where the fog touched me, soaked through my jacket in seconds. But fog is just water vapor. It shouldn't make you wet like that. It shouldn't drip. I was about to go back inside when I saw something in the fog. A shape, tall, maybe 7 feet, standing about 30 feet away, just standing there, watching me. I blinked. The shape was gone. I told myself it was nothing. Lack of sleep, too much coffee, my eyes playing tricks in the thick fog. I finished my readings and went back inside, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been out there, something that wasn't supposed to exist. 2 days later, Peter Sipilu went missing. Peter was 52, a fisherman who'd lived in Gambell his whole life. He went out at dawn to check his nets, normal routine for him. He walked into the fog. He never came back. The search party went out at noon, moving carefully through the fog. Visibility was terrible. They called his name. Nothing. They searched the beach, the rocks, everywhere he might have gone. They found his clothes, his jacket, his pants, his boots, even his underwear. All of it folded neatly and placed on the beach like someone had carefully undressed him. But Peter was gone. No body, no blood, no sign of struggle, just empty clothes. 4 days later, Emma Kangarik disappeared. Same pattern. Clothes found folded on the beach, body gone. Then 3 more people vanished over the next 3 days. All of them walked into the fog between 6 and 8 in the morning. All of them left their clothes behind. All of them disappeared without making a sound. The village was terrified. People stopped going outside during fog hours. Parents kept their kids inside, but work still needed to be done. Nets still needed checking, and I still had to take my readings. I examined the clothes. There was a residue on them, wet and slimy, smelling like the ocean, salt and kelp. I tested it with my basic chemistry kit. The pH was 8.2, same as seawater, but it also contained proteins, amino acids, something organic, something alive. Day 9. 6 a.m. I stepped outside to take my readings. The fog was denser than ever. I could barely see 20 feet ahead. I stood still, listening. The village was silent. Everyone was inside, hiding from the fog. Then I saw movement, multiple shapes, circling me in the fog. I counted 7 of them. Tall, silent, moving like they were hunting. One of them came closer. It stepped out of the fog, and I saw it clearly for the first time. It was over 7 feet tall, but hunched forward. Its body was translucent. I could see through it like looking through dirty glass. Inside I could see organs, but they were wrong. Not human anatomy. The body was dripping constantly, water running down its surface and pooling at its feet. It had 4 arms, long arms that reached the ground when it stood. 3 fingers on each hand, webbed like a frog's, no thumbs. Its head was smooth, no hair, no ears, no nose, just 2 massive black eyes, huge like deep-sea fish, adapted to darkness, and a mouth, a wide horizontal slit that opened to reveal baleen, like a whale, not teeth, baleen. The creature stared at me, tilted its head, curious. I couldn't move. My body was frozen, but not from the cold, from pure fear. It reached out one of its long arms. The arm extended, impossibly long, crossing 6 feet in an instant. 1 finger touched my left cheek. The touch was cold, wet, slimy. The finger left a trail of slime on my skin, and I felt it immediately absorb into me, soaking into my pores, becoming part of me. The creature made a sound, a wet gurgling noise like water flowing through pipes, not words, not language, just sound. Then it backed away into the fog and vanished. I ran back to the station, locked the door, went to the sink and scrubbed my face frantically, but the slime wouldn't come off. It had already absorbed into my skin. My cheek felt numb, tingly, wrong. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and saw the change. The spot where the creature touched me, my left cheek, was pale, translucent. I could see the veins underneath my skin, tiny blue lines visible through flesh that was becoming see-through. My cheek felt wet, always wet, like I was sweating, but it wasn't sweat. It was water seeping from my pores. By day 12, the translucency had spread, half my face, my neck, my left arm. I could see through my own skin now, see my muscles moving, see my blood vessels pulsing. My body was becoming transparent, my temperature dropped. I used to be 98.6 degrees, now I was 92. My breathing became difficult, like my lungs were filling with fluid. I was drowning from the inside. I was so thirsty. I drank 2 gallons of water a day, but it was never enough, and I couldn't stand dry air anymore. I could only breathe comfortably in the fog. Worst of all was the pull, this overwhelming urge to go outside, to walk into the fog, to join them. The ocean was calling to me. The water wanted me back. I fought it every day, every hour, fighting my own body. I set up cameras outside the station. I watched the creatures from safety, studying them, trying to understand what they were. They lived in the ocean, the Bering Sea. They came to land during fog season because they needed moisture to survive. Dry air killed them. Their bodies were 90% water, 10% tissue. They were more liquid than solid. They fed on humans, but not by eating, by absorbing. They touched people, injected that enzyme, the slime, and it broke down human tissue into water. Then the creature absorbed the water. That's why only clothes were left behind. They didn't need fabric, only organic matter. And they reproduced through the fog. They released spores. The spores infected humans, transformed them slowly. Eventually, the human became a new creature, joined the colony. I was infected. I was transforming. In a few weeks, I'd be completely changed. I'd lose myself, lose Nicole, become one of them. By day 18, I was 70% transformed. Most of my body was translucent now. I could see all my organs, my bones. Everything inside me was visible. My breathing was terrible. My lungs felt full of water. I was drowning in air. The pull was unbearable. I couldn't stay inside anymore. The dry air hurt. It burned my skin like acid. At 6 a.m., I couldn't resist anymore. I walked outside into the fog. The creatures were waiting, 7 of them in a circle, welcoming me home. I walked toward them. It felt right. It felt like home. But then, for just a moment, my human mind came back. One last flash of who I used to be. I remembered my family in Oregon, my parents, my sister. I remembered choosing meteorology because I loved understanding how the world worked. I remembered being Nicole Bradford, human, woman, individual. Did I want to lose all of that? I stopped. 10 feet from the creatures. My body was pulling me forward, but my mind screamed to stay human. I made my choice. I turned and ran, away from the fog, toward the village, toward people, toward humanity. The creatures came after me, fast, moving on multiple arms, scuttling like spiders. I reached the community center and threw myself inside. The building was warm, dry, heaters running, dehumidifiers going. The creatures stopped at the door. They couldn't enter. The dry air was killing them. I was trapped. Inside was safe, but I was still transforming. I needed moisture. Outside meant capture. I called for help. Coast Guard, military, anyone who would listen. Creatures in the fog, I said. They're transforming people. Send dehumidifiers, industrial ones. Dry out the air. Kill the fog. 3 days later, helicopters arrived. They brought equipment, 50 industrial dehumidifiers, generators, heaters. They created a dry zone, 1 mile radius around the village. The humidity dropped to 10%, desert-level dryness. The fog disappeared, just evaporated, and the creatures were exposed. They screamed, those terrible gurgling water sounds. Their bodies dried out in minutes, skin cracking, water evaporating. They shriveled up like raisins, dead within 10 minutes, all 7 creatures dead. But the dry air hurt me too. I was 70% transformed. The dryness burned my skin. I was wrapped in wet blankets, kept moist, barely alive. The military brought medical teams. They studied me, tried to reverse the transformation. They couldn't. It was permanent. My body was 70% water-based now. My cells had been restructured. There was no going back, but they could stabilize it, stop the transformation at 70%, keep me from losing my humanity completely. The treatment is ongoing. I get 5 gallons of IV fluids every day. I live in a humidity chamber, a modified shipping container with 80% humidity, climate controlled at 60 degrees. I can't regulate my own body temperature anymore. I continue my weather work remotely from the chamber. I collect data, analyze patterns, and I warn other villages when fog season comes. Because the creatures come back every year, April through June. Different individuals, but the same species. The colony in the ocean is huge, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. We defend the inhabited areas, deploy dehumidifiers, kill the creatures that come to shore, but we can't kill them all. And I'm still transforming, despite treatment, despite everything. I am 85% transformed now, barely human, mostly water. My mind is still intact. I'm still Nicole, still thinking, still aware. But my body is alien. I live alone in my chamber. Visitors have to wear breathing gear because the humidity is dangerous for normal humans. I work, I study the creatures, I document everything, but I feel myself slipping. The transformation pulls at my mind. I dream of the ocean, of fog, of swimming deep underwater where it's dark and cold. I wrote in my journal last week, I'm losing myself. I'm 90% theirs now. I dream in water. I think in fog. I don't remember what dry air feels like. I want to swim. I want to merge with the ocean. I want to join them. But I'm fighting. I'm still me, still Nicole, still human. Even if my body isn't anymore, how long can I fight? Days, weeks, when I finally lose, when I become fully creature. Will I still remember being human? I'm scared. I'm so scared. The military took a photo last month, me floating in my water tank. I can't breathe air anymore. I have to be submerged. In the photo, my body is completely transparent, see-through. You can see every organ inside me. I look exactly like the creatures now, almost indistinguishable. But my eyes, they're still human eyes, barely, still aware, still Nicole, still fighting. The question isn't if I'll lose the fight, it's when, and what will be left of me when I do. My name is Angela Kowalski, and I've been working for the United States Postal Service for 12 years. The last 5 of those years, I've managed the post office in Stebbins, Alaska. Stebbins is a tiny village on St. Michael Island. We have 578 people here. Everyone knows everyone. I know every single resident by name. I know their addresses. I know their families. That's what you do when you're the post office manager in a place this small. The mail comes once a week, by plane. I sort it with my part-time assistant, Maria. It's good work, quiet work. Nothing ever changes, at least that's what I thought, until October 2024. That's when I started getting mail for people who don't exist. Mail that shouldn't be possible. Mail that came from the future. And inside those packages, living body parts. Severed and bleeding, but still alive, still moving. What I'm about to tell you is real, every word of it. And the worst part, it's still happening. It was a Wednesday morning in late October. The temperature was around 35 degrees. We only get about 10 hours of daylight this time of year, and winter was coming fast. The plane had just dropped off the weekly mail, 400 pieces, standard delivery. I was sorting through it like I always do, checking addresses, organizing by street. That's when I found it. A package addressed to Sarah Delgado, 47 Beach Road, Stebbins, Alaska, 99671. I stopped, stared at it. There is no Beach Road in Stebbins. I know every street in this village. Beach Road doesn't exist, and I'd never heard of anyone named Sarah Delgado. In 5 years of managing this post office, that name had never crossed my desk. And in a village of 578 people, trust me, I would know. I checked the return address, S. Delgado, 47 Beach Road, Stebbins, Alaska, 99671. The same address, same name. The package was from Sarah Delgado to Sarah Delgado. Same person, same place. That's when I noticed the postmark, Stebbins, Alaska, dated yesterday, Tuesday, my post office, my stamp. But I worked yesterday. I processed 0 packages. This package never came through, yet somehow it had yesterday's postmark from my own post office. I picked up the package. It was about the size of a shoebox, 3 pounds maybe. I shook it gently. Something liquid sloshed inside, and something solid, moving, shifting. Then I smelled it. Rotten eggs, sulfur. Coming from the package, I should have followed protocol. Don't open suspicious packages. Call the postal inspector. File a report. But I was curious, and honestly a little annoyed. Someone was playing a prank and I wanted to know who. I put on gloves, used my box cutter carefully, opened the package. Inside was a glass jar, a mason jar like the kind people use for canning. It was filled with clear liquid, and floating in that liquid was an eye, a human eye, blue iris, still fresh, not preserved in formaldehyde. I would have smelled that. This eye looked like it had just been removed from someone's head. I stared at it. My hand started shaking. The eye was looking at me. Not just floating, looking. The pupil dilated, focused, like it could see me. I dropped the jar, it landed on a padded mailbag and didn't break. The eye blinked. Underwater, inside the jar, the eye blinked. That's impossible. Eyes don't work when they're severed. They can't blink, they can't focus, but this one did. I found a note in the package, handwritten on plain paper. "You'll understand soon. Sorry, SD." I stood there for a long time, just staring. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Finally, I sealed the package back up, put it in the storage room, locked the door. I didn't tell Maria, I didn't tell anyone. I thought maybe I was going crazy. More impossible mail. The next day, Thursday, the plane came again. That was weird. Mail only comes once a week. But the pilot said he had a special delivery, rush mail, 10 packages, all addressed to people who didn't exist, all at addresses that weren't real. Marcus Webb, 89 Tundra Lane. No such street. Emma Winters, 12 Frost Avenue. No such address. David Park, 203 Ice Road. No such road. 7 more just like that, all impossible addresses, all names I'd never heard. Every single package was postmarked from Stebbins, from my post office, dated the day before, but I didn't process any of these. They never came through. I opened 3 of them. The second package contained a finger, severed at the knuckle, fresh, still bleeding a little, and it was twitching. The 4th package had a tongue, floating in liquid like the eye. The tongue was moving, writhing, alive. The 7th package, a tooth with a long nerve still attached. The nerve was pulsing like a tiny heartbeat. These body parts were alive, functioning, even though they'd been cut off from the body. I checked the security camera footage. Our post office has one camera that covers the main sorting area. I reviewed Wednesday's footage. There I was, working alone, sorting mail, everything normal. Then at 3:47 p.m. the footage skipped. 1 second I was sorting. The next second it was 8 seconds later, 3:47:23 to 3:47:31. And during those 8 missing seconds, 10 packages appeared on my sorting table, just materialized out of nowhere. Something was editing time, or the packages were coming from a different when. Friday morning, I came in early. Maria wasn't scheduled until noon. There was a package on my desk, addressed to me. Angela Kowalski, 14 Main Street, Stebbins, Alaska, 99671, my home address. The return address, A. Kowalski, 14 Main Street, Stebbins, Alaska, 99671, from me to me, postmarked today. But I've been at the post office since 6 a.m. I didn't mail this. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a hand, a human hand, severed at the wrist, a woman's hand, my size, and on the ring finger was my grandmother's ring, the silver one with the tiny emerald. I wear it every day. I looked at my own right hand. I was wearing the ring. My hand was fine, but the severed hand in the box also had the ring, the exact same ring. Then the hand moved, the fingers flexed, curled into a fist, opened again. It was alive. The hand picked up a pen that was in the box, started writing on a piece of paper. I watched it write, my own hand writing to me. This is your hand. From 3 days from now, you will lose it. You will die. I'm trying to warn you. Check the basement. Tonight, 11 p.m. Trust no one. You. Below that. Only living tissue can travel back through the anomaly. Letters don't work. Paper doesn't work. Only flesh. Sorry I had to cut it off. It's the only way to warn you. I sat down hard. My head was spinning. The packages were from the future, from versions of people who were going to die. They were sending body parts back in time as warnings. But why hadn't they just written letters? Why body parts? The note explained it. Only organic matter could travel through whatever was bringing these packages back. Only flesh and blood. I looked at the hand again, my hand. Still moving slightly. I had 3 days before I lost it. That night, at 11 p.m., I went to the post office basement. The basement is mostly storage, old mail records, equipment, supplies, nothing exciting. But that night I found something, a hole in reality, not a physical hole, an anomaly. The air shimmered, space bent and twisted. When I looked at it, I could see 2 times at once, past and future overlapping. Through the anomaly I saw myself, older, different clothes, face covered in blood, and her right hand, my right hand, was gone, just a bandaged stump. Future M saw present me. Our eyes met. She pointed frantically toward the stairs. Her mouth moved. "Run! He's coming!" I heard footsteps upstairs. Someone was in the post office. At 11 p.m., the building was locked. I hid behind some boxes and watched. A man came down the stairs, tall, maybe 6'3", wearing a postal uniform. He looked normal at first, but his movements were wrong, too smooth, no hesitation, like a machine. His face was blank, no expression. His eyes were empty, staring but not seeing. He walked straight to the anomaly, reached through it, pulled out a package. He opened it. Inside was a human heart, still beating. The man ate it, just bit into it. Raw. Blood ran down his chin. He chewed, swallowed. His face never changed, no emotion, just eating. I understood then, this thing, not human, just looked human, was intercepting the packages from the future, eating the body parts, the warnings, letting people die because they never got the warnings. That's why people were dying. Their future selves tried to warn them. This creature ate the evidence. The thing turned, looked right at me. It smiled. Its mouth was too wide, too many teeth. "You saw," it said. Its voice was wrong. Multiple voices overlapping, echoing. "Now I eat your future." It lunged at me. I ran. The thing chased me. It moved fast, too fast for anything human. I made it to the stairs. The thing grabbed my right hand, pulled hard. I felt my tendons stretch, my bones cracking. It was trying to rip my hand off. I fought, kicked, stomped on its foot. It didn't react. Kicked harder. Nothing. It felt no pain. My hand was tearing, skin splitting, blood everywhere. I made a choice. I cut my own hand off, used my box cutter, sliced through my wrist, fast. It hurt worse than anything I've ever felt, but my hand came off. The thing held it, confused. I ran, blood spraying. I wrapped my stump with my belt as a tourniquet. I got out. I couldn't fight that thing, but I could close the anomaly. I researched, found out that temporal anomalies exist because of paradoxes. Something breaks causality. To close it, you have to resolve the paradox. The paradox was me. I got my hand because I lost my hand. I lost my hand because I got my hand. A loop. Causality broke, created the anomaly. To fix it, I had to stop my future self from sending the hand back. I went back to the post office, waited. At 11:03 p.m. I saw her, future M, coming through the anomaly, holding her severed hand. "Don't send it," I said. "If you send it, the loop continues. We have to break it. But if I don't warn you, you'll die," she said. "Not if we kill it first, together, both of us." We attacked the creature from both sides of the anomaly, present and future. It couldn't defend both directions. We used fire, burned it. The thing screamed, melted, turned to ash. With the creature dead, I made a choice. I didn't cut my hand off, kept it, changed the future. The paradox resolved. The anomaly collapsed. But now there were 2 of me. Present me with both hands. Futurum with one hand missing. Both real, both existing. We told everyone I had a twin sister, that she just moved to town. People believed it. Present me runs the post office, lives a normal life. Future me hunts. She's found more anomalies across Alaska. Nome, Bethel, Kotzebue. Each one has a creature like the one we killed. They're a species. They feed on temporal paradoxes. They cause paradoxes by intercepting warnings. Futurem has killed 7 creatures in 8 months. Last month, she found the biggest anomaly yet. In Shishmaref. 6 feet wide, unstable. Through it, she saw another version of herself. 10 years older, missing both hands, one eye gone, scarred. That future version wrote a note. "Don't close this one. You'll need it. Trust me." So she left it open. We don't know how many versions of us exist now, how many Angelas are hunting these things across different timelines, but we're winning one timeline at a time. And if you're a postal worker and you get mail for someone who doesn't exist, don't open it. Just don't. My name is Jake Townsend, and I've been driving fuel trucks for 14 years. I haul diesel and heating oil to the most remote villages in Alaska, places so far out that the only way to reach them is by driving across frozen ocean. I'm talking about ice roads, solid enough to hold a 40-ton truck, but thin enough that one wrong move sends you straight to the bottom. I'm from Texas originally, moved up here after my divorce. Needed a fresh start, and Alaska gave me that. Up here, it's just you, your truck, and the road. No drama, no complications, just work. But what happened this winter on the Kotzebue Sound ice road changed everything. It changed how I see the world, how I see myself, and it left me with memories I can't shake, no matter how hard I try. The run to Deering is 80 miles from Kotzebue. That doesn't sound like much, but when you're driving a 10,000-gallon fuel tanker across frozen ocean at 60 below zero in 24-hour darkness, every mile feels like 10. Deering is tiny, population 122. They need fuel deliveries every 3 weeks or they freeze. That's not a joke. Without heating oil, people die up here. So when they call, I go, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. January 2025 was brutal, the coldest winter in 40 years. Temperatures hit 60 below and stayed there for weeks. The kind of cold that makes your breath freeze in your lungs, the kind that kills exposed skin in 30 minutes. But the fuel had to get through. That's my job. It was my 4th run of the season. Midnight, not that it mattered, since it was dark all day. Anyway, I was at mile 47, right in the middle of the frozen sound, when I saw the figure. Someone standing on the ice, just standing there. No vehicle, no snowmobile, no sled, nothing. In this cold, that's a death sentence. 30 minutes, maybe less. I had to stop. I pulled the truck over, grabbed my flashlight, and climbed down. The wind hit me like a hammer. Even with my parka and face mask, the cold burned. I walked toward the figure. My light caught her face. It was a woman, maybe 35 years old. She was wearing a light jacket, the kind you'd wear in fall, not in 60 below winter. No hat, no gloves. Her hair was loose, not even pulled back. She should have been dead, frozen solid, but her eyes were open, looking at me. "Hey," I called out, "are you okay?" She didn't answer, just stared. I got closer, reached out to touch her arm. Her jacket was stiff as cardboard, frozen rigid. I touched her skin, ice cold, blue. When I pressed my finger against her arm, the skin didn't give. It was solid, like touching a frozen steak. But then she blinked. Her lips moved. "Help," she whispered. Her breath came out in a tiny cloud. She was breathing. Somehow, impossibly, she was breathing. "Jesus," I said. "Come on, get in the truck." She didn't move. I had to physically guide her, one step at a time. Her legs were stiff. Her movements were slow, jerky, like a robot running out of battery. I got her into the truck cab and cranked the heater to maximum. Then I just watched her. Over the next 30 minutes, she thawed. The blue color faded from her face. Her jacket softened. Her movements became smoother. By the time we reached Deering, she was talking. "My name is Rebecca," she said. Her voice was rough, like she'd been screaming. "I'm from Deering. I went for a walk on the ice. Got lost. Don't know how long I was out there. Thank you for saving me." I looked at her hands. Her fingernails were black, necrotic, severe frostbite. When I helped her take off her boots, her feet were worse. Black, all the way to the ankles. Dead tissue. "Doesn't that hurt?" I asked. She looked down at her feet. "No," she said, "I can't feel anything." I dropped her at the village clinic and continued my delivery. But something about the whole thing bothered me. In 14 years of driving up here, I'd never seen anyone survive exposure like that. She should have been dead 10 times over. 3 weeks later, I made my next run to Deering. Mile 52 this time. Another figure on the ice, a man, same thing, light clothes, frozen solid, but alive, conscious, staring at my truck. "I'm Tom," he said after I thawed him out. "I live in Deering, went hunting, got lost. Can't remember how long." His fingers were black. His toes were black. He felt no pain. I dropped him at the clinic, same as Rebecca. Asked the nurse what the hell was going on. "Going on?" she said. "What do you mean?" "2 people in 3 weeks," I said. "Frozen on the ice, both from here?" She frowned. "Nobody from Deering has been lost on the ice. I just brought Tom in and Rebecca 3 weeks ago." "Tom and Rebecca are fine. They're both at home right now." I stared at her. "What?" "Tom's at his house. Rebecca's at her house. They've been here all month." I drove to Rebecca's house, knocked on the door. A woman answered. It was Rebecca. Same face, same voice, but healthy. No frostbite. Normal color. "Can I help you?" she asked. "You're Rebecca Tomlinson?" "Yes, who are you?" "I picked you up on the ice 3 weeks ago. You were frozen." She looked confused. "No, I've been home all month. I haven't left the village." I backed away slowly, got in my truck, drove to the fuel depot and did my delivery without saying another word. Over the next 2 months, it kept happening. Trip 3, Sarah. Frozen on the ice at mile 51. Trip 4, David and Emma, both frozen at mile 58. Trip 5, Michael, mile 60. Trip 6, Lisa and her son Marcus, mile 55. Every single one of them was from Deering. Every single one was frozen solid but alive, and every single one had a healthy version living normally in the village. I started keeping notes, drawing maps, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. The frozen ones all had the same story. They went out on the ice, got lost, froze, and didn't know how long they'd been there. Days, weeks, they couldn't remember. And they all had black extremities, fingers, toes, sometimes ears, and noses. Dead tissue that they couldn't feel. The village council insisted nobody was missing. Everyone was accounted for, but I'd brought back 8 people now. 8 people who shouldn't exist. Trip 7, March 2025, mile 58. I saw the figure and my stomach dropped, because I knew what I was going to see before I even got out of the truck. It was me. I was standing on the ice, looking at my own truck. I sat in the cab for 5 minutes just staring. My hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be happening, but I had to check. I had to know. I climbed down and walked toward myself. Frozen me looked exactly like me. Same face, same parka, same everything. My eyes were open, aware. "Help me," Frozen me said. "I'm so cold." "What happened to you?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, hollow. "I was driving," Frozen me said. "This route, mile 58. The ice cracked. The truck fell through. I got out, but the cold..." I looked down at his hands. Black, frozen. "I felt myself die, but I didn't die. I'm stuck. How long have I been here?" "This is my 7th trip," I said. 21 weeks since winter started." Frozen me's eyes went wide. 21 weeks? I've been freezing for 21 weeks. I felt sick. This was me, a copy of me, trapped in the moment of death, suffering for months. "Please," frozen me said, "kill me. I can't do this anymore. Just the cold, endless cold, please." I couldn't do it. I got back in my truck and drove to Deering, delivered the fuel. Then I went back to mile 58 with equipment. I needed to find out what was causing this. I found the crack in the ice, a huge split that had refrozen, and below it, maybe 60 feet down in the water, there was light, faint blue light. I rigged up an underwater camera on a rope and lowered it through the crack. What I saw on the screen made no sense. There was something down there, metal, geometric, covered in frost. It was glowing, pulsing, like it was alive, a machine, or a spacecraft, something artificial, something that shouldn't be there. And I realized this was the source. Whatever this thing was, it was copying people, creating frozen versions that stayed trapped at the moment they crossed over this spot. How many trips had people made across this ice? How many times had the 122 residents of Deering crossed this crack? Hundreds of times, maybe thousands. How many frozen copies were out there? I went back to mile 58 with explosive charges, borrowed them from a mining company. I was going to destroy that machine. But when I got there, I wasn't alone. There were at least 40 people standing near the crack, all frozen, all staring at me. I recognized some of them: Rebecca, Tom, Sarah, multiple versions of each, 3 Rebeccas, 4 Toms, and 5 of me, all standing together, all looking at the truck. They moved toward me in unison, spoke together, their voices overlapping. "Free us! We suffer! End this! Destroy the machine!" "If I destroy it," I said, "will you die?" "We don't know, but anything is better than this. Please." I set the charges, lowered them through the crack on cables, attached them to the machine 60 feet down. Then I triggered the detonator. The explosion was massive. Ice shattered, water erupted. The machine flared bright blue, then started to break apart. But it didn't just die, it fought back. The blue light exploded outward in a wave. It hit me, hit all the frozen copies, hit everything within a mile. And suddenly I felt it. 5 versions of me freezing, 5 separate moments of death. I could feel them all, connected. I was in 5 places at once, all of them suffering. I screamed, fell to my knees. My mind couldn't handle it. 5 versions of dying, 5 versions of cold, 5 versions of pain. All my frozen copies surrounded me. "Finish it," they said. "Even if we die, even if you die, end this." I looked at my truck. 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel. I knew what I had to do. I got in the truck and aimed it at the crack. Slammed the accelerator to the floor. The truck crashed through the ice and plunged into the water. I jumped out at the last second, hitting the frozen ocean hard. The fuel spilled into the water, spreading fast. I pulled out a flare, lit it, threw it. The fuel ignited. The explosion was like hell opening up. Fire and water and steam mixing together. The machine below shrieked, an electronic scream that made my teeth hurt. Then it melted, collapsed, died, and every frozen copy, 40, 50, maybe more, screamed in unison, then dropped, dead, finally dead. I felt my copies die, felt their relief, their peace. Then nothing. I was alone. One Jake, only one. They found me half frozen on the ice, rescued me, treated me for hypothermia. The machine was destroyed. The copying stopped, but I couldn't keep driving, couldn't cross ice anymore. Every time I tried, I'd have panic attacks. I'd feel myself freezing again, 5 times over. I quit trucking, moved to Anchorage, started therapy. The doctors called it dissociative disorder from multiple self-trauma. Basically, my brain couldn't handle the memory of being 5 people at once, of dying 5 times simultaneously. The military investigated the machine. They said it was a probe of some kind. Alien technology maybe, or future tech, or something from another dimension. They didn't know. It had been down there for 50 years, they figured, copying people who crossed over it. Most of the copies had died from exposure within hours. But this winter, with the extreme cold, they'd survived long enough to be found. They estimated 2,000 to 3,000 copies had been created over the years. Most of them were still out there, under the ice, dead now but frozen, preserved. The residents of Deering sent me letters. "Thank you," they wrote. "We felt something lift when the machine died, like a weight off our souls." I never wrote back. I couldn't. I still have the nightmares. I'm standing on the ice, frozen, watching my truck drive away. I'm being left behind. Then I see more of me, 5, 10, 20, hundreds, all frozen, all watching, all suffering forever. I wake up screaming every time. They say the bodies are still there, under the ice at mile 58. Maybe 50 of them, frozen in positions of pain. They can't retrieve them. The ice is too unstable, so they'll stay there for 1,000 years, 10,000, until the ice melts, waiting, frozen forever.